Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode until the question-and-answer session of today's call. At that time, you may press star 1 to ask a question. Also, at this time, I would like to inform all parties that today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Manuel Velasquez. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon for those of you joining on the East and West Coast. Thank you for joining us for our Exporting to Mexico webinar series, Mexican Import Process webinar. This webinar is our 6th webinar out of the series of 7, which is brought to you by the U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service at the Department of Commerce. My name is Manuel Velasquez, Commercial Specialist for Global Markets for the Foreign Commercial Office in Monterrey, Mexico. I will be today's moderator. In a moment, I'll turn the presentation over to our main speaker, Mr. Raul Lopez, Commercial Director of Lopez Adri Forwarding, and Mr. Doug Barry, International Trade Specialist for Global Knowledge Center for the U.S. Commercial Service. Mr. Barry will be moderating the Q&A session. All speakers will be available at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. Contact information will also be provided to everyone. For those of you who just joined, you can still log on to the webinar by entering the URL website and passcode per the instruction that were sent to you by email. We do have a few housekeeping details to make sure everyone gets the most benefit from this morning's webinar. You will be able to hear the presentation via your telephone and view it simultaneously via your computer. If you are not hooked up through both, please take a moment to do this. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please press star 0 anytime during the presentation. During this webinar, we will be taking voice and written questions. To ask a voice question, please press star 1. To ask written questions, we invite you to type in questions on your screen as they occur to you during the presentation. There is an icon with a letters Q&A on the upper left-hand side of your screen. Q&A stands for questions and answers, where you can click and type in your questions anytime during the presentation. We will compile the questions and answers as many as time allows after the presentation. Type questions which are not answered during the webinar due to time constraint will receive personal answer via email after the webinar. And well, we want to start this presentation telling you that we are the U.S. Commercial Service, and this is our agenda. And we have 3 offices here in Monterrey, one located in Guadalajara, other in Mexico City, and Monterrey. Our main goal is to help you to locate qualified reps and customers through our services. We have different kinds of solutions to help you to export to Mexico, like trade counseling and advocacy, qualified appointments, partner search, market research, and for the topics related to the customs, any question that you have, any doubts, or if you want to know more about how is the process to export to Mexico and to import in Mexico, please let us know. We want to be your source of information. Now, I'd like to introduce live and online to Mr. Ruben Lopez, Commercial Director of Lopez Adri Forwarding. Ruben is one of our secret weapons for this topic. Ruben, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Well, we are very happy, and it's an honor to participate on this webinar. So I would like to thank my friend Manuel Velasquez and the U.S. Commercial Service for this distinguished invitation. Thank you very much. Today, we are having this webinar about the exporting to Mexico, and we are going to share some important tips on how to export properly into this country. And also, we'll talk about our experience on this field in order to give you recommendations for you to have a much better experience when doing business in Mexico. So if we go to the first slide, you may see the main topic we'll go through this presentation. Are we there, Emmanuel? And the
yes.
Exporting to Mexico 101.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we'll see your customer profiles. We'll talk about also what does the Padrón de Importador means and the importance of it. Also, the relation between importers and customs broker. the importance role of a trading company as a third-party importer, and what are the advantages when working with a trading company. We'll see some exceptions on importers registration, and finally, some important information to consider on your international business. So if we can go to the next slide, please.
Done.
Mexican customer profile. You might think at this moment about a customer with some kind of commercial or industrial profile. But for this presentation, this is not the case since we are talking about exporting. So what I want to refer with a profile is for you to know if you are dealing with a domestic company or international company in this Mexican market. So before shipping, you need to know your customer or consignee legal basis status. If you are dealing with a domestic company, you should consider that they don't have any import-export experience, and you might need more effort and assistance to comply for your export. Nowadays, with all this technological and internet era, exporters are easily contacted by many Mexican clients or leads. Who believes importing into Mexico is such an easy thing because they have already made a contact overseas. But they will be able to import or trade anything, creating this the first mistake. So whenever you are contacted by anyone, just please make sure if they are domestic company or international company. On the international companies, well, there's some advantage there because if you are doing business with this kind of company, it means that they are active importers who have import-export experience and they own custom broker as well. Obviously, making a transaction with them is easier and smoother. Under this category, you may find also importers for domestic business only, which are companies that import finished goods in the Mexican market, such as an international distributor. These companies need to comply with all customs and commercial regulations. And also, you will find manufacturing companies which import raw material on their temporary basis to transform them on finished goods, which will be later be exported. These kind of companies work under some special government programs called INMEX, and they have many advantages over regular importers. So they don't have to comply with most of the commercial or restrictions at customs. Can we turn to the next slide, please? Selecting the right way to export. The importance of knowing your customer profile is because it will guide you to select the right way to export into Mexico on a practical way. So this will depend if you are dealing with importer client or you are dealing with a non-importer client. It also will depend on the Incoterm you are dealing. And this Incoterm is basically the international terms of agreement on your sale, which will mark the scope of commitment or liability on your transaction. You may agree to sell just at your facility under X work and let your client run with all the costs, risks, and expenses to get their shipment in their place. But also, you may agree delivering to your client under DDP Incoterm. Under this scenario, you as exporter will run with all costs and expenses. But I can tell, according to our experience, that the most popular Incoterm American exporters use to export into Mexico is the DAF, which means deliver at frontier. Can we go to the next slide, please? Kind of confusing here. Okay. So under these circumstances, the right way to export to an importer customer, and on that way you will need to contact their custom broker. As I can tell, since they are active importers, they already have that structure. They already have their custom broker. So if you are dealing with an active importer, you sell to that on that Incoterm, deliver at frontier, you ship to the forwarding company in the United States, and then you just send the customs paperwork, which involves commercial invoice, packing list, NAFTA certificate, and bill of lading to their broker at the border. From that point, they can take it from there and ship it into Mexico. If you are dealing on a DDP Incoterm, which means that you may choose a custom broker, you can do it as long as the importer provides their approval. Remember that importers in Mexico, they have a tight relation with the custom broker. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to change their broker. So we go to the next slide, please. All right. So exporting to active importers, as we just told, is the easiest way. But we are here to learn about alternatives and solutions on exporting to Mexico, so you'll be able to face those difficult situations that can be presented when you are trying to develop a business with a non-importer. It's very common for us as a Mexican custom broker to receive calls from companies that have their shipment stuck at airports or borders because their consignee or client is not an importer, and they are not registered as importers, and they are very desperate for this kind of assistance. And that is why the importance of knowing your client status to avoid this kind of situation is, my recommendation is you must first know if your client is able to import. So what do we need to do if we are dealing with a non-importer? First of all, you will need to contact Mexican custom broker, because certainly they will have such contact. You will need to get your product classified according to the harmonized tariff code and see what product requirements we may have. You also will need to contact a trading company which may act as a third-party importer on the operation at customs, and develop the partnership with them, establish a sales price, and then sell through that Mexican partner. So there's a model for this kind of business that we will see in a moment. We go to the next slide, please. And talking about the product, for custom regulation, all products, we may have here many kind of products on your companies that you work for. And the main thing when you want to export into Mexico is to get that tariff code, that harmonized tariff code. And it may differ in between the American tariff code, Canadian tariff code. Mexico has their own tariff code. At the NAFTA region, they got the first 6 digits may be the same, but then they start to change. So you will need to confirm that with the Mexican custom broker, and then see which kind of regulation you may have when for the importation into Mexico. The regulation we may have is labeling for retail products. We may have regulations for quality norms, and that goes for electronics, also retail as well. You may be subject to official inspection if you handle agricultural or food or human consumption products. You may need special permits if you're handling some cosmetics or some hazardous material, and you also might need to have trademark licenses. It's very common for us also that we are contacted by many people that they want just to they find a customer in Mexico and they have Dell computers. They wanna export it, but if no one has a trademark license, you cannot do that. So I put there imported letters of extension because there are some kind of operation that you can avoid this kind of regulation if you are doing a special transaction to some of customer in Mexico. We can go to the next slide, please. You may ask, how does a non-importer can become an importer? Or how difficult it is for a company to become an active importer in Mexico? And one popular question we have is, does an American company can be an importer in Mexico? Can they have their own license? Well, these are very common questions because the idea is to deal with importers. And the idea is to make these things practical. But what I can tell is in Mexico, there's a official government database that is named Padrón de Importadores. And if the person or the company is not registered on that Padrón de Importadores, on that database, well, that person is not an importer. And that's the principal difference. So if you are registered at the Padrón de Importadores as a Mexican company, you are allowed to become an import. And it is exclusively for Mexican legal entities and Mexican persons. What requirements we have for the Padrón de Importadores is, as I told, to have a Mexican legal entity or business established in Mexico. You will need to have a regular fiscal record and also to submit an electronic request to the government portal. All this is free of charge, but it can take you some time to get it. An average can be 2 to 3 weeks, but there are cases that they may take months. And it all depends on how your regular fiscal record is, and that's the main thing. So can we go to the next slide, please? After getting the authorization on the Padrón de Importadores, now the new importer will need to set up an account with a Mexican custom broker of their choice, following a one-time process. According to custom regulations, the custom broker must request and have on file all the importer legal documentation, and that can take as fast as the importer can do. They will need to also to submit letters of authorization, such as the power of attorney, electronic authorization through the web portal government, and also electronic files for electronic custom procedures. After getting the setup account with a custom broker, now you can start shipping or importing into Mexico. And this is why the relation in between importer and custom broker is so special and so tight. And whenever you as exporter, you are consulting with a different custom broker and you want to deal with that custom broker, and you have an importer company with a different one, then it's kind of difficult to go with the one that you already have. And the easiest way is to go to the one that is already set up with your final client in Mexico. Let's go to the following slide, please. The ideal market for U.S. exporter, and can be for many exporters, overseas exporters that they are looking into Mexico, the ideal would be to have all people being active importers or importers. And this is because having the importers, the process makes it easier. But if we go to the next slide, please. The real Mexican market for exporters is that you only find a little portion of active importers. In most of the Mexican market, I can tell more than 80% of the Mexican markets are non-importers. So what do you want to do as a trading company, as an exporter company in Mexico? What you would like to do is to define a business plan to go to those non-importer companies. And if we go to the next slide, please. And this will be what I can tell you need to do if you are just going to non-importer companies, or you want to standardize your export process. In this scenario, you will need to have a third-party importer, a trading company which is already set up an importer, and that can be your partnership, a commercial representation in Mexico. It's a recommendation if you are dealing, or if you go through experience with dealing with non-importer companies. As I repeat, if the best thing for you is to sell to active importers, but the real thing is how to deal with non-importers is going through a third-party importers. And if we go to the next slide, please. Even though the trading partners, they give you a lot of advantages, and it is what I recommend to exporters who are starting and are positioned on a first stage in their business venture in Mexico. Using a trading partner, as I told, may standardize your export procedures. Also, a trading partner will offer you backup on custom brokerage, freight forwarding, and logistics. And that's a good trading partner that can do that. Also, you are able to comply with this trading partner with most of customs regulations, permits, norms, or labeling. And I put labeling on capital letters because you can standardize your product using the labeling for the importation into Mexico only one singular company. Because on the labeling requirements, customs requires you to label the name of the company of each single importer. And let's say that you have importer companies as a customer, and you are sending products to them, and you got labeling requirements. You will need to label every singular product with the labeling per importer. But if you use a trading partner, you standardize your label, and you can just import through one importation company and comply with the regulation only using one single label. Also, using a trading partner, you may handle this transaction as a domestic sale with your final customer. Nowadays, we know there are many customers that they don't want to deal with suppliers that gave them problems, and most of the time they prefer to purchase or to get the products on their plan and have the supplier or the exporter getting involved on all the process. So handle the transaction with a trading partner and helping you with all this backup, logistics, custom broker, and all that, make things easier for the purchaser, because they will have the product in Mexico as a domestic sale. It also gives you the opportunity to deal with some government procurement whenever they are limited to national companies. You can use your trading partner in Mexico to bid on those procurements and to win a very good business. Using a trading partner offers also legal liability and low risk to exporters and customers. Everything on legal and customer regulation, it goes through the trading partner. So all the risk is on them. It offers you also commercial representation and a complete business management, which is invoicing in Mexico according to commercial regulation, receiving payments in Mexico, and then doing the bank transfer to your company in the United States. We're going to skip that one, Manuel. It's just the most common scenario. We go through the proper way, much better. Are we there? Okay, the proper way. Choose your trading partner. It will depend on what kind of product you're handling, the experience of that trading partner. I can tell, and I take the advantage that our company will be dealing for more than 10 years on these kind of scenarios, and we have several customers, and we do their representation, and we work with the trading partner. So the proper way is first choose a correct and a reputable trading partner in Mexico, that they have the experience and all the backup we have taught. Also, after you choosing that trading partner, you will need to work on a price list. And I quote DDP Mexico saying like a price at the door of your Mexican customer, and plus EVA, which is the sales tax, which is important thing on these kind of scenarios. We will see the model in a moment, but it's important for you to get your product catalog and then do all the costing, all the expenses, and put a price in Mexico with the partnership with the partner. And after that, you will sell, or you will effort your sales force on selling your product through your partner's business platform in Mexico. And this means that the customers, the orders will go from the final customer through the trading partner and then from the trading partner to your company. We can go to the next slide, please. This is an example of pricing and tax of one of our customers, and that we got the experience to work with them, and we are working right now. This company in the United States, and this is only a representation. There are not real values, but it's just to exemplify the business plan. In the United States, you have the product. It's IDQ product on $9, and then we got the line of the border. Once it crosses the border, the Mexican customs will request you the 16% of those values. And then you got Lopez ID, which is our company, and all the platform there that we offer, trading services, custom broker, freight insurance, and all that. You add all the cost, and let's assume all that cost for Lopez ID is $1. For the final customer, you're going to list the price on $10 plus tax. The final customer will see the price in Mexico and will pay that price in Mexico to the trading partners. The trading partner will keep the $1 and then forward the transfer to $9 to the exporter in the United States. And if we go to the next slide, please. If we go to the next slide, you see how the model, the business model works. The U.S. on the top, you see the U.S. exporter keeping the relation with the customer and the sales. That is how it should work. The trading partner will not deal with your customer. You have your relation, your credit, your agreements. But the purchase order will go to the trading partner, and then the trading partner will forward that purchase order to the U.S. exporter. The U.S. exporter will submit a customs invoice to the trading partner for customs purposes. And then the trading partner will submit a different Mexican invoice to the final customer with the final price. Then the payment is going back from the customer to the trading partner, to the trading partner, to the U.S. exporter. Finally, as well, the product is released from the U.S. exporter, going to all these logistic backup to the trading partner, and finally delivery to the final client. And that's the model of how we are working with our trading partners. And go to the next slide, please. There are some exceptions, and going to selling to non-importers or active importers, there are some exceptions that you may take advantage, and it is under our Mexican customs rule 1.31. And what this rule allows you is to ship several kind of products to anyone, that even if they are non-importers or not. And what kind of products can go through this rule? Let's say one of them is machinery assets. If you are selling equipment, machinery that is, if they are called in Mexico bienes de capital, which they are going to use for a production or for some business activity, then you can deal with anyone. There's no need for having an importer registration or having you will need though to have a custom broker, but you don't need the registration. Also, on this rule, you may export agricultural equipment only if your country in Mexico is registered as an agricultural person. Books, sculptures, paint, or artworks are also exempt of an importation registration. For your package, up to $1,000, and these are used for many persons that may send product samples and all that through courier companies. And on this item line, on this line, you won't even need the custom broker assistance. You only can use the courier company to import it. It's important for you to consider that there are many confusions on this spot because many people send samples by like powder or some chemical product, and this rule will not allow you to do that. These are only for products that are easy to identify the useful of the product. It won't let you go like chemicals or loose product without any packaging information or something like that. And another exception is when you send products under $5,000 value, and it can be imported, and it's the same thing as the courier packages, as long as you are selling or sending a product to a particular that is a product that it is identified their use. Let's say furniture, a desk, a chair, or any product that is not difficult to identify their naturalization. So this kind of operation can be done by non-importers only for one time on a 30-day period. So it's also important for you to know this important rule. And also, before doing this, you will need to contact the courier company, whoever you're going to choose. It might be DHL, FedEx, UPS, and ask them about this rule, because most of the time they don't know it, and they just stock you the product at customs. But you got this rule that you need to ask them if they are willing to use it, because sometimes because their internal policies, they just discharge it and they don't use it, and they push you to use an active importers, trading companies, and customs broker, and all that. We go to the next slide, please. Also important for you to consider when doing business with Mexico, the NAFTA is a duty-free agreement, not a value-add tax agreement. And this is because most of the products coming into Mexico, they are subject of the 16% of IVA. They are charged at the moment of crossing. The customs request you the funds in advance for those 16% of IVA. And many companies are very confused on this because they say, hey, when I ship to Canada, we are in NAFTA, and there's no duty or there's no tax there, or whenever, even when Mexican companies, they ship into the United States, the government, they don't charge you any duty or any tax because they think because of NAFTA. But according to the Mexican regulations, the NAFTA is a duty-free program, and you are not paying a duty. They are charging you for a sales tax, and they charge you that sales tax in advance. And the most important thing about the sales tax is that many exporters consider that tax as a cost, and it is not a cost. The sales tax paying at Mexican customs is a value-add tax, which is creditable to the Mexican importer. So somehow or sometimes the Mexican importer will take advantage of that 16% and will be credited to their booking. So it is only a cash flow issue. Important for you to consider that the Mexican customs, they request you upfront a payment of taxes or duties. And also, and for the other hand, we have American exporters doing business in Mexico, and most of the time they forget to do the shipper export declaration. And maybe we are talking about exporting to Mexico, but it's very common that the exporter just ship the product and they forget this important step at the U.S. at the U.S. customs. The shipper export declaration is an important process that you will need to consider. And if you are not doing that, you might be subject to penalize at the U.S. customs. You might be subject to, if you are caught at the customs, to get your product hold at the United States customs until you pay the fine and submit the U.S. shipper declaration. The U.S. shipper declaration may be submitted by a custom broker, by a freight forwarder, by the exporter directly. And if no one submits the cheaper export, the custom authority will go back for all the parties involved. So don't forget that. Submit the cheaper export whenever you export any place. And finally, it's important for you to consider the difference between customs broker forwarders, freight forwarders, logistics company. Nowadays, we have companies doing logistics, and they tell you we are a door-to-door company, and we can offer all the services. But most of the time, when it goes through customs or when it goes to the border or the point of crossing, that logistic company, they told you, you know what, who's your custom broker? And you should consider this and that. So you need to be very careful on which supplier you're using and take care about they are a custom broker or a forwarding company. The forwarding company, what I could tell, custom broker, they do customs documents and customs clearance, customs dispatch. The forwarder, they don't do that. They only receive shipments at the border. They count and they forward the shipments. The freight forwarder, they take the freight into the place you tell them. And the logistic company is a company that coordinates with all these parties involved and get the product into Mexico. It's important for you. Just keep in mind whenever you are using a service from any supplier, make sure that they have their custom broker. Also, that your party or your client in Mexico is registered as importer, and you can go to that process easily. If not, then you will need to go to a trading partner and work on some kind of model that we just talked and have your business done. Well, that's all for now. Manuel, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here and you have listened to this presentation. My name is Ruben Lopez, and whatever you need here, I'm located in Laredo, Texas, at the border, and we do have a trading company, custom broker company as well, and we may help you guys if you want to develop a project into Mexico. Thank you very much, Manuel.
Thank you very much. I don't know if he's Doug around there. Well, looks like he's not here, but well, before to start the questions, I want to let you know that we have a last webinar for this season. It's going to be next month. It's called How to Settle Disputes with the Mexican Customs. It's going to be on March 12th. And in this webinar, you will learn to how to solve controversies and misunderstandings about harmonized system codes, the permits and requirements. Sometimes we receive here questions about how to deal with the Mexican government once that you have a problem or when you have a shipment stuck in the Mexican customs. Now I'm going to pass with Catherine to see if we have any voice question.
Thank you. At this time, if you would like to ask a question on the phones, please press *1 on your touch-tone phone. Please ensure your phone is unmuted and record your name clearly at the prompt. Once again, that is *1 on your touch-tone phone. It does take a few moments for the questions to come through. Please stand by. I'm showing no questions at this time.
Well, we have two questions, two written questions. We could answer one of them. One of the question is, let me see, here is it, will we get a copy of this presentation afterwards, or do I need to attempt to write all this down? No, of course we want to send you the link with the presentation. Just pay attention to your email. We want to send the information of this webinar and the information for next webinar. And the second question that I have here for Ruben is, one of the questions is a U.S. company able to manage import activities from a U.S. office? Ruben?
Yeah, thank you very much, Manuel. Yes, well, it's a very popular question that I'm assuming that you would like to know if an American company may be an importer of record in Mexico. Well, is that the case? That is not possible unless your company establish a Mexican legal entity, and that's the scenario of many international companies doing business in Mexico. They go through lawyers and set up their own company in Mexico with all the legal requirements. And once they are set up in Mexico, their legal entity in Mexico, now they can request a registration on the Padrón de Importadores, which will allow them to be the importer of record in Mexico. But that's the only way. The government will not let you use your U.S.-based corporate or company in the United States to be the importer in Mexico. That would not be acceptable for them. So the only way is for you to come here in Mexico and establish a Mexican company.
Ruben, I was understanding too that probably Nicole Cradle, who made this question, is probably having this approach that from United States to make all the process could be a door-to-door export or operation, like you explained us. They could use a trading company, right?
Yes, if they are using a trading company, they can offer to their customers a door-to-door services, and using, of course, using the proper way of a trading company, using all their business platform, and using them to sell the product into Mexico, and that's for dealing with non-importers. But if our friend here, who's doing the question, they have importers company already set up as a customers in Mexico, they can do it without using a trading company. They can go and coordinate with a logistic company. The only thing they will need to request the custom broker information from their clients, so they can contact them and make the process.
Excuse me, I do have Nicole. She is queued up on the question and answer. So go ahead, Nicole, if you need to further ask questions.
Yeah, thank you. We already have a legal entity present in Mexico. I was just wondering if the actual processing could be managed by the company, by the centrally located office in the United States, working with a Mexican customs broker.
Yeah, well, you would need to have someone in Mexico doing the customs paperwork. There are electronic right now. The technology may allow you to do the documentation, let's say in the United States, but you need to have a licensed customs broker to submit the pedimento, the custom paperwork to customs, so your shipment can be clear. So if there's a new regulations coming in Mexico, if you got a legal entity already established, as you have told, and you may you can request to the customs or the Mexican government to have one of your employees being the one that submits the pedimento and all this customs procedure. You will be independent. You will not need even a custom broker, but it's going through a different process, and this is a new regulation just coming in that they are allowing importers company or Mexican companies to do their own paperwork, custom paperwork, without using a custom broker. So it can be done as long as you follow the process.
Do they have to physically be in Mexico?
Yes, according to the regulation, they will need to be in Mexico, yes.
But if you use a customs broker that is physically in Mexico, you would be able to transmit the correct information and handle the brokerage. They could handle the brokerage on your behalf?
Yes, they can.
Without you being, okay. We have plants and warehousing facilities, but we don't have the expertise from a customs perspective like we do here in our central office.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, if you got transactions going back and forth, import, export, I mean, I'm assuming your legal entity in Mexico is an importer company, and you only need to use your customs broker, and for us to be a customs broker, we need to have a license on behalf of the government.
Okay.
But also there's a choice that, on this new regulation that you can name one of your employees in Mexico, and it should be in Mexico, as your custom rep, which is that is the name they will have, legal custom rep, and they can submit. They will be able to submit all custom paperwork without using a custom broker.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I did get another question that queued up coming from Ashley Jacobs. Go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi. I just wanted to comment too to Nicole. We have that. It's not always easy, but we do it. And then my actual question now was for Manuel. Does the U.S. Commercial Services have some sort of newsletter to kind of show us as exporters what changes Mexico Customs has had recently? For example, we've had a change to steel import rules, and it's kind of caused a few issues here. So we're trying to come up with a way to get ahead of these changes. So does the U.S. Commercial Services publish some sort of newsletter to identify those changes?
Hello, yes. Well, in this case, we don't have a specific like update. But if you send me an email with this specific question, I could make a research on that, and I answer you directly to you. It's the same for almost all the industries. I'm in charge of all the import process here. And then when you have a specific question, or if you want to know what is happening with the changes or an update, because sometimes there are new updates in the Mexican legislation, and I go and review it, and I write a market research. Sometimes I write market research, and I provide that to our database. But if you have any specific questions about your sector, you could send me an email, and I work on that, and I send you that information direct to you.
Right, that'd be great. You'll be getting a few emails from me then. Thank you.
Sure. And in all of the cases, it's for free.
I would like to take advantage of that question. Actually, we also, we as a company, we do send some updates on new regulations, and we do have some experience in the steel industry. We do have customers on that industry. So I will be more than happy to have your email, or Manuel, you can give me her email and put us on our company updates and news for the new regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I show no further questions on the phones at this time.
Okay, we have one question for Marta Alcalá, and I think it's very interesting because she's saying, please review the differences between broker, freight forwarder, and logistics. What can you add about that, Ruben?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, custom broker, specifically, they do only customs paperwork. And in order to do that, they will help you as well to get your classification on your product and get all the restrictions or regulations for your product to be imported into Mexico. That's the main role of a custom broker. Besides doing just the import-export document and dispatch the cargo at the port of entry, they also may help you to get the tariff code, the proper tariff code, the requirements and regulations for your product. That's the custom broker. The forwarder, most of the time, custom broker, they have their sister company named forwarder company, and those are based most of the time in the border. And these forwarders, the profile, they have warehousing to receive materials that are going to be imported into Mexico. They don't do any customs document, but what they do, they will get your material in some place, in some warehouse or some yard to get it prepared to the customs clearance. So, and then we got the freight forwarder, which are most of like a transportation company. They just move the loads, and sometimes they don't deal with nothing about customs. They just move the material from point A to point B. And finally, the logistic companies right now, which is one of the populars at this moment, is logistic are coordinators, and they may have custom broker assistants, they may have a forwarding company, but logistics, there are more like a coordinator companies. They will select the proper way to get the material internationally into Mexico or to any other place. So that's the main difference. I don't know if that'll be clear.
Okay. Just following that idea, how to choose the proper trading partner or the proper custom broker? What do you suggest to our friends, the exporters from the U.S.? How they going to select this proper trading partner or custom brokers? Yeah,
well, most of the times, what I recommend is to know about the company they are offering the service. You may go to the website, but not also only the website. You can, if you want a real, let's say, a company that can act as a custom broker, because logistics can tell you, I can do the customs broker. But how do you know if they are really a custom broker or not? So what I recommend is go, if let's say Laredo, there's Association of Custom Broker, and you might look to their directory of customs broker companies. If this logistic is registered on that directory, then it's a good company, and it is recognized by this association, and you can work with them without any problem. That's my suggestion, but sometimes, there's all the feedback that you receive from the presentation. You may look what is the scope, what are their terminals, what are their offices, if they are really offices from them, or they are just addresses that there's nothing there. So it's kind of doing a little research on your supplier.
Perfect. Catherine, I don't know if we have questions from our audience.
I'm still showing no questions at this time.
Perfect. Looks like we already are done here, and I think it's all the time that we have. Remember, for those of you who have questions and you want to send it through email, we want to answer you back after this webinar. Please do make a note of contact information that we send to you. You can contact any one of our speakers. Please take a moment to write down your contact information. And thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you to Mr. Ruben Lopez for your expertise. Also, thanks to all of our participants. Please check your email inboxes for more information on upcoming webinars. Any question, please let us know. And thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That does conclude today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.